Hello and welcome to this week's Expert Spotlight. My name is Kayleigh McCrory, online success expert for coaches and female entrepreneurs. And today I'm so excited. I have a client and just amazing woman. Her name is Kayleigh O'Keefe, and she's going to be sharing with us today some of her successes and about her amazing new business venture. So with that, welcome Kayleigh to this week's Expert Spotlight.
Thank you, Michaela. I'm super happy to chat with you, to connect with you, and to dig in. This is going to be fun.
Yeah, so excited to have you, Kayleigh. So always love to start off by just, getting to know and hear about your story a little bit more. So for those of you that don't know who you are, tell us a little bit about how you went from corporate to what it is that you're doing now.
Ooh, yeah, would love to. So I spent the first 8 years of my career in consulting. I was working with Fortune 500 executives in Washington, D.C. and San Francisco, and just loving it. Like, I love facilitating. I love strategy work. I love being on the cutting edge of the latest ideas. Like, that was such a good fit for me. And then I was living in San Francisco and looking around and being like, okay, there's this tech thing going on. Like, I'm curious what goes on in that world. I jumped into the tech startup world. I got super lucky to find like a company that was just like growing like crazy. We were only, I think, 20 people when I joined. And that experience is like what kind of took me out of corporate, and I would say like started the path to like getting that little idea of like, wait a second, I want to be an entrepreneur. I want to serve. I want to lead in a new way. So I had 3 incredible years at this growing startup. You know, we grew to 150 employees, 2 offices, 2 rounds of funding by Sequoia Capital, F Prime, like big names. And I also was mentored by a really incredible CEO. But what happened is that I had closed a massive deal. It was our first big contract as a company. It took me the whole year. By the time we closed it, like, I was exhausted, depleted, like didn't want to do the work that we had just signed up for through this contract. And I went on a retreat, which is something I like to do, but I like Googled quickly, like, all right, how do I just get some space? And it was in that moment on the retreat, we were doing an exercise that mentally I known I wanted to serve in a different way, but suddenly I really felt like, wait a second, there is a bigger dream inside of me. I want to work with leaders. I want to support leaders. I want to grow as a leader. And so it took me about a year to be like, oh, okay, like, am I going to really do this? Am I going to leave, the security, the stability, the benefits, the whole ethos, right, of the tech startup world. And I, at the beginning of this year, just realized like life is too short. It's time. And little did I know, when I left San Francisco, moved across the country to Florida, started Soul Excellence Ventures, Soul Excellence, we can talk more about what that means, that, a pandemic would hit and that this would truly be the biggest awakening of a year where so many people are looking for ways to connect, to engage, to share their story. And it's really just flowed into the work that I get to do now with Soul Excellence Ventures and the publishing arm. So it's been a journey, and along the way you gain the skills, the experiences of like, what do I like, what am I good at, and to now be able to align it towards something that I care about it's the most fun part about getting to do the work that you and I do, is like for all things to be clicking and to work with incredible people.
Yeah, amazing. Cool. So I think so many people can relate to that, as far as like knowing that there's this kind of calling within them and they're feeling a little unsure, not wanting to kind of leave the quote unquote safety of the 9 to 5. So super inspiring that you kind of took the leap of faith and you made it happen for yourself. And let's talk a little bit about, I guess like when you came to me, you were kind of interested in starting a coaching business, and kind of along the time that we've been working together, it's been a very fun and interesting journey, and interesting things that we've kind of come up with you've done all the hard work. I'm just there to support you, but we kind of, meandered along the way and kind of really found an aligned business that really works and support you in a way that feels good for you. So tell people a little bit more about how you went from thinking you wanted to do a little bit more coaching to what you're doing now.
Sure. Awesome. So I'll kind of start with the business that I now am running, which really is a leadership publishing company first and foremost, and then additional consulting. And the work that I do is to bring together groups of leaders to share their stories of personal growth on a particular topic. And the reason why I care about this is I just believe that the media, that most information sources, like especially this year, have been spreading negativity, fear, and frankly, bad ideas. And so I'm like, let me create a space for leaders who are out there doing the work, who are growing, to share those ideas, which is super fun. And we'll talk about, the books and all that. But that's not what I imagined this business would look like at the beginning of the year. Like you said, I spent the first 4 months just like writing, blogging, podcasting, like finding my voice, because I'm sure many of your clients can relate when you've been in corporate for so long, when you've adopted the company voice, when you've fought for the company and lobbied for the company, at some point you kind of forget, like, wait, what do I care about?
Mm-hmm.
And so 2 things happened. One, I got the opportunity to write a chapter in a multi-author book. It's this one, Awakening, Meet the Women Birthing a New Earth. And so I had that experience of like, ooh, what is it like to collaborate on a project? But even still, after writing that and starting to build the network, meet all these incredible people, really, Michaela, like I just assumed that, all right, how am I actually going to make money this year as an entrepreneur? Okay, I looked around, I saw what people are doing. I was like, oh, okay, I can be a coach or a consultant. Like, those are my options. And, what was really helpful about the timing for when you and I met is that, I had tried the one-on-one coaching thing, but what I realized is I was really focused on helping customer success leaders, account managers, and the work I had imagined doing was basically what I had been doing in corporate. Just one-off, with leaders. And it's like, wait a second, why did I leave that to do the same thing? And quite frankly, like in a much harder space and something that was not interesting to me. So when you and I met and we were talking about like, all right, Kayleigh, like what is the service? What is the product? Where can you really help? As we started to explore, like maybe that one-to-one in-depth coaching thing on these topics you don't really care about, like maybe that's not it, and why you're not showing up super excited to like talk about this. And you and I realize like the things that light me up are helping people to connect to their purpose, to connect to their soul excellence, to integrate all parts of themselves along their career and life journey, and to set their own standards for success. And as we're having those conversations, suddenly like, oh, the wheel started spinning and saying, wait, the best thing that I did for myself this year was write a chapter in a book. I got to express myself. I got to connect to, wait, what is it that I want to share with the world? And so I was like, wait a second, why don't I bring that model to other leaders who are in corporate, who've been in the box, have really cared, have had to care about everything that they say and their reputation, and give them the space to share. And that's where, the concept for the book, Leading Through the Pandemic, was born. The business model was born. And it's not what I expected it to be, but I'm like, wait, this is such a perfect fit for someone like me, and how I like to serve multiple people at once, to teach, to hold space, to lead kind of through the ambiguity that people go through when writing their chapter. So yeah, now it's just firing on all cylinders. But it over the summer, it was like, oh God, I hesitated. I'm like, maybe I just should go back to corporate. We all have that self-doubt of like, let's go back. It's easier over there. But to stay with it, for us to find that thing and then use the strategy that you shared with me in terms of connecting and finding those leaders, was kind of magical. It all worked.
Amazing. I think you brought up 2 things that I kind of want to touch on. First of all, I think so many people really can relate to the piece that you said about finding your voice, and kind of feeling a little bit lost in finding that, and kind of how you came to that. So do you have any like tips or tricks for kind of maybe what worked for you when it came to like finding your voice and kind of being authentic to yourself? And then I'll throw another piece in there as well, as like maybe share some of the because you've been one of my most successful clients to date. Like you've just been killing it. You've been working your butt off. So you deserve everything that's been coming to you. But maybe in addition to that, you want to share some wins that you've had as far as, the clients that you've had and the money that you've been making, like starting this new venture, like you've been killing it. So would love to hear more about both of those things.
Yeah. Awesome. So, I mean, for your first question, like I think one of the things that excites me about this year is like, we have recognized that, how do I want to say this? Like, that time is short, that we do only get one life to live. And we have to say, wait a second, how am I showing up? What am I telling myself? What is my voice? How do I want to live in the world? Because we always know this, but sometimes we need to see it in like full relief that nothing is guaranteed. And so like we have no choice, right? But to be who we are. I feel like that's what this year has brought through. In terms of how to actually find your voice, I suggest a couple things that worked for me. Number one was actually to create space. I found what I realized is like, I was just constantly like listening to podcasts or listening to others or watching others or being in the corporate, like where it's like, wait, my voice wasn't even in my own head because I was listening to all this other stuff. So like, number one, create space. Two, if you're like me, like writing is a tool for finding your voice. And so for 30 minutes every morning, as part of the artist way, like I wake up, I put the coffee on, and I write 3 handwritten pages every single morning. And the first page and a half, like it always sucks. You know, it's just like, I talk about a dream, I talk about the weather. I'm like, oh gosh, like I have nothing really to say today. And once you get through that, then you start to like come up with ideas. For example, the next book title, Significant Women, Leaders Reveal What Matters Most. That came through just writing in the morning pages. So if you're not kind of already like have a habit of just writing, and maybe it's even just recording for yourself, your thoughts, like I would suggest that. And then the third thing is, and this is where I've struggled more and like really had to give myself permission to do, and has been part of the like unwind from corporate. And you'll hear a lot of people talk about this of, you know, shifting from head to heart. And so even just standing and like paying attention of like, where do I feel the energy in my body? Like it's almost always in the forehead, you know, it's thought, 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 thought. And to like breathe and say like, ooh, feel like what is going on around me? What do I notice? Like that I think can be the hardest thing to do, because it is unnatural, especially for high achieving corporate women to go there. But I think you have to when you're starting to find your own voice. Actually, one last thing to say here is also to have the courage to be disliked, because you're going to find that the voice that you've adopted for a long time has been for the purpose of being liked by and approved by others. So that's been probably the biggest unwind, is like, wait a second, why do I want to be liked by everyone? Like, what does that get me? Versus, do I want to be true to myself? Do I want to express and recognize that the goal in life is not to be liked by everyone? It is not to be nice. You know, it is to live out your true purpose, to love and use your gifts. Like, so that part can be hard, but it's also been the most rewarding to find my voice and realize like, yeah, some people hate it, some people like it. Awesome. Great. Like spend more time with the people that want to hear it.
Love that.
And then that's all been part of like, I think the wins, you know? And so yeah, for your audience, you know, I was able to recruit 25 incredible corporate leaders from companies like Microsoft, Appgate, Unisys, female entrepreneurs who run multi-million-dollar businesses. I was able to reach out to them pretty much cold. I mean, 80% of the people in my book I didn't know until we worked on the strategy and I followed through on LinkedIn and I connected with them on LinkedIn. And so most people I didn't know, they said yes to join the book. And I think within like the first maybe 2 weeks or maybe 3 weeks were the first 10 clients joined. And then like shortly after that, 25 spots filled in the book, made over $26,000 within, I think 6 weeks. And more importantly, like I just started to connect with these really incredible people. So even the people that weren't ready to share their story and leading through the pandemic, they now reach out to me on LinkedIn. They're absorbing the work. They're considering the next book. And so that's been like another side benefit. So yeah, I mean, the results are pretty awesome, and just like keeping with the process every day, like that process discipline was a huge part of that. And then like just testing and refining my message of like what's working, what's not working. And I would say like being able to handle rejection, because one of the things that your strategy afforded me was to connect with more people, basically to operate at scale as a single business owner, and to be engaged with a lot of people and say like, okay, this group isn't interested, these people are. But what that means is to get 25 incredible leaders to say yes in such a short time, to, you know, agree to write a chapter, to pay to be in the project, all of that. I had to get really comfortable with hearing a lot of no's too. And at first that part was really like, oh, gosh, why don't they want, you know, why don't they want to be in part of this book? It's going to be amazing. Like I swear, like this is going to be the best experience that you have in 2020. How come you don't see that? But to get comfortable with the no's and recognize each one was getting to a yes, and those people were still, you know, interested in the mission at large. I put that in the win bucket just from a personal development standpoint and who I'm becoming as a leader, of like, oh, that fear of, that courage of being disliked and fear of rejection, like those things, they crop up from time to time, but they're not holding me back from growing the business.
Beautiful.
So thank you. I don't think I've shared that with you, of like how important that piece was as part of the process.
Yeah, so it's so important. I think you touched on like a really big piece of, and I love hearing you kind of bring it up, that like I think we make entrepreneurship so hard, but I think at the end of the day, whether you choose a certain strategy or another, it comes down to asking people to buy your stuff, like plain and simple. And I see so many new entrepreneurs just absolutely terrified to hear no and play all the what if games in their head. And I think the choice that successful entrepreneurs make that is different from, you know, the so-and-so called entrepreneurs, is they're willing to, one, like you just said, not necessarily even like, yes, you're going to have an opinion and people may or may not like that, but willing to hear no and it like not be the end of the world. So just, you know, kudos again to you for really like making it happen. I kind of love hearing that through this process, it's allowed you to kind of be more authentically yourself and kind of say, rejection's fine, but like, I'm going to keep going.
But I have to say, like, what was so amazing about working with you on the strategy, reaching out at scale, is like the compression of time and the reps, you know, like it wasn't over the summer when I was exploring like one-off coaching, like a no that I would receive really was the end of the world, because I didn't have 5 other calls coming up that day, where using your process, I did, like I had 6 calls in a day. And so like if 3 said yes, amazing. If 3 said no, amazing. Like, so being able to like get those no's and yeses in a shorter period of time and build that practice and that discipline, you know, that was invaluable. Otherwise could have been just like fearing the one-off no's for an entire year, make no money and say, all right, yep, guess it's time to go back to corporate.
Totally. So, you know, what would you say to people that are, you know, they feel that call within them, like we were talking about earlier, they know they're meant for something more, they want to go out on their own, they want to be their own boss, they want to set their own schedule, and that fear is kind of getting in the way. Like, what would you say to those women?
I'd say 2 things. Like, number 1, you do have to trust yourself. And by that, I mean, not everyone wakes up and does have an idea or has a dream to be an entrepreneur. In fact, very few people do. So if it's even calling to you and like in your field of vision, that is saying something. And so trust that. And what I don't think it means is you have to leap out of corporate today. Although I do think there is something to just going for it, as I did, versus like, let me try and like side hustle it for 5 years until it's a real thing. I'm kind of like a go all in and make it happen person. So if that's how you are, then I would recommend that. But trust that if the dream's there, it's for a reason. But then also you have to look around and just say, in my day-to-day life, do I act like a CEO? Do I act like an entrepreneur, even if I'm not one yet? Because you can't, you can't wait for that. You have to do that now in order to embody the qualities, to be more creative, be more innovative, all of that, so that when the idea comes and the opportunity comes and you're ready to do it, like you've been that person. It's not foreign for you.
Totally love that. And that's something I'm always talking about it around, specifically around mindset, is exactly what you just said. Like, you really have to like start asking yourself, like, who is the woman that makes 10K a month, 20K a month, is the successful CEO, is, what, insert whatever your passion or dream is there, but what are those action steps and what are you doing on a daily basis to be the woman that you want to be? So absolutely love that piece of advice. I think that's really useful. So if you're watching and you want to be as successful as Miss Kayleigh, I think that's a great question to journal around. What else did I want to ask you? Let's see. So what made you, like, I know a lot of people will kind of think about coaching or want to kind of step into a coaching container, and the fear around investing in themselves and in their business, especially when they're new, can be a big fear that kind of keeps people from moving forward. What made you kind of decide to take the leap and invest in yourself before you had the clients?
Ooh, good question. Because like I've never had a fear of investing in myself. Like everything I spend money on is some sort of like experience or growth. But before, it was all like within like, it's like I had the money coming in, like it was all, I could do that. And so, yeah, to then be like, wait, how am I going to invest in myself and make all these upfront investments if I don't know that they're going to pay off, and what are the right ones? And so I can tell you two things. Like, one, I did make, I would say, some like bad investments this year that, who knows, maybe they'll pay off long term. But those were typically in like very, very large group programs where you are one of like hundreds of people. And I just realized, like, I'm someone who really needs personalized attention. And I think the reason is because I know that I'm a high performer. And when I work with a coach that's like direct, like I played sports my whole life. I loved practice. Like, I love being like, okay, tweak this, try that, like, and then doing it and learning it. So I knew that one-on-one was really important. And then the second thing, I like smaller group programs. So just anything where like you're getting that attention because you do believe in yourself. And then the second thing I would say is, it's never helpful to make an investment in yourself and your business out of fear, or like, what if this doesn't work? Like, you've planted that seed. Your mind is always looking for like, it's not working. It's not working, So imagine like if the first week of outreach and I was like, Michaela, I only got one call on the books. Like, I don't think this is working, like, what good would that have been? Versus like, I go into every investment and for working with you saying like, this is amazing. We're going to make this work. I'm so excited to learn. Like, I'm in. And so I just feel like so many of us are like half committing to a million things because we are afraid of failure, but we've set ourselves up for failure by not committing to it and just setting the intention and following through of like, no, this is going to be amazing. This is going to be successful. So I would say take the leap, trust that you'll be successful, because again, you've now found yourself in the orbit of really interesting people for a reason. How I connected with you, I was like, ooh, I trust this. Let's go. But you have to kind of stay the course and just assume that it's going to work out. Like, why wouldn't it?
Amazing. So I think the two things that I would love to kind of have the audience take away from what you just said is, one, like, you as a person are just super committed to your growth. And number two, I think I've heard some people, I can't remember who coined the phrase, but I think it just shows by the way that you talk about it, like your intention and your mindset is, oh, how can I make this work? We're going to go all in. I'm so excited about this, versus, I don't know if this is going to work. I don't know if this is for me. Can I trust myself? Like the wow brain versus the owl brain. So it's like, which one are you going to listen to? You know what I mean? Amazing. So tell us a little bit, you just finished, or you're on your second book now.
Yeah.
I know you mentioned the title just a second ago, but tell us again the name of the book, who it's for. I know a lot of people that watch this show would be totally ideal clients for this book and kind of
Yeah.
contributing. So talk a little bit about the book and tell us, if that's something that they're interested in, or they ever had a dream of being a published author or in a book, how could they kind of take the next steps with you?
Yeah, I think I would say if some people have the dream to be a published author, but most people have the dream of growing their business. And I would say one of the best ways that you can do that is by sharing your story, by building your personal brand. Oh, and by the way, connecting with 20 other high powered, incredible women who are really good at what they do and have incredible networks who now know you and are reading your book and getting to know you through the process. So it's like some people want to be authors, and I'm like, hey, if you just want to grow your business and do so in a really different, interesting way, then contributing in a multi-author book is a really good option. This next book that I'm publishing is called Significant Women: Leaders Reveal What Matters Most. And this book is for female corporate executives and entrepreneurs who want to share about what they care about and why. And what I've learned in my conversations and talking with, people that are interested in the book, that are signing up, is that there's pretty much always a through line to love, which I hadn't really expected, but now makes total sense of like, what does matter? Okay, love. And the stories that are emanating from that around, okay, here's what my experience was like when I realized my child was autistic, for example, and how that influenced my family, how I'm thinking of running my business, what I'm doing. Like, so this one feels very, very, very deep, very open, very vulnerable. And I think it's really for the women that have no problem kind of expressing, but they haven't actually talked about this particular story yet. And so everyone around them is like, that woman's amazing. She's really authentic. She's good at what she does, but they may not know about the why and, what inspired, what influenced, what happened to someone to say, wait a second, what is significant to me? What do I care about? How do I want to live? So I'm really excited for this one. It's, just like who it's already calling in. I'm like, ooh, wow, this is like an even more incredible caliber of person who's just ready to go there. And I would say if you're afraid of writing, a lot of us have been really good at video this year. If you're afraid of writing, I would just say, don't worry. Like, that's my role, is to lead you through the process, to make it easy. It's not going to be as scary as you think to actually get the words on paper. And you'll have a lot of fun doing it because that's how we make it.
Amazing, amazing. So if you want to grow your business, or if you've ever had a dream of, being a published author, this is totally for you. Just want to honor you, Kayleigh, and appreciate, what you're creating in the world. I think, this book, the books that you've been putting out and everything else that you've been doing as part of your Soul Excellence brand is so needed and valuable in the world. And just really giving a voice to women that are leaders, I think is just so, so, so important. So just want to honor you for your special gifts, for spending some quality time with me. Is there anything else that you want to say to our audience of coaches and entrepreneurs before we wrap up that we didn't get to touch on?
I would just say, get Michaela on your team. If you want to connect with more clients, you want to have better conversations, sales conversations, and you want to continue to grow as the leader of your business, then Michaela, you've helped me do all of those things. So I want to thank you and just invite everyone to trust themselves as we head into this new year. Like, trust yourself and take intentional action.
Oh, it's truly touched. Thank you so much, Kayleigh. I appreciate you being here. Thank you for all the listeners. I hope you enjoyed this week's Expert Spotlight. If you do decide that this book is for you, the link will be below this video in the show notes. You can take the next steps with Kayleigh. Is there any other place that you would send them besides that link if they kind of want to just learn more about you, Kayleigh, or your website, your social media? Where would you send them?
Yeah, definitely go to KayleighO'Keefe.com or find me on Facebook or Instagram. Those would be the best spots to learn more about the leadership books and everything else that I'm working on.
Beautiful. Awesome. Well, again, thank you so much, Kayleigh. Great talking to you. And with that, we will talk to you next time.